Hi everyone, it's Rosanna. Today we're going to be dressing little mice. Hopefully you saw an intro of some mice in cute little garments, and I don't know yet what those are going to be, but I have ideas, so we're going to go through that together. Hopefully these will be very doable and simple and pretty quick to do. So if you did the little make with me cotton mouse video, you will have some possibly still naked mice that you might want to put in little outfits. And I'm just going to take you through the supplies that you could use to give them some clothes, give them a little bit more personality, although there's nothing wrong with a naked mouse in my opinion, but they can be very sweet dressed up. So I'm not actually going to show you how to dress this one in the video, but if you have crepe paper, that is a really quick tutu or skirt. You can obviously paint it whatever color you want. If you don't have the fancy crepe paper, this is something that you can source like on Etsy. Then you can just use party streamers and gather it up and either sew it yourself in a little tux, or you can just gather it up and, like hot glue it as a little skirt. So you can go the cheap route too, and that's very available. And that is probably like the very fastest thing you could do. I just painted on some little point shoes for her. The second fastest is a shawl always. That's just a triangle, literally a triangle of fabric. You don't have to do any sewing. You fray out the edge, and voila, you have an old lady with a shawl, and you can make her a little pair of wire glasses if you want to, or spectacles. So those are the very easiest. Then we're going to do some things that are a little bit more complicated, a little more time consuming, and more involved than that, but not a lot. We're going to use any fabric scraps you have, so I'm going to take you through the supplies. So that's the big one today, is fabric scraps. Muslin would work, just plain muslin, and you can paint it, afterwards and do a little design on it if you want to, or if you have this kind of smaller prints. And then I'm going to take my camera off to show you. Down here I have a basket of all the little lace trims that I collect, because those come in really handy for dressing miniature things. These just trims finish off a garment and then save you sometimes hemming or sewing things. So that's always handy to have for collars or for the bottoms of dresses or for ties for aprons. And also like the old kind of satin seam binding. Is it satin or silk? I don't know. Probably says rayon. Anyway, old seam binding like that can be handy. And then just scraps, any scraps of fabric, and this kind of trim that you can get. This is all just vintage stuff I've picked up mostly in thrift stores. This is big enough that it kind of almost can make an instant apron if you have it for this size of little doll. So that's very handy if you have something like that, or if you have just some old worn out clothes that are small print. I always look for those and hang on to those. Oh, and then where's my hanky? Oh, here it is. Hankies I love. So I look for these with the small lace trim, because that is just an instant bottom of a dress or an apron or something. So those are the types of things I really like to have on hand for dressing. Oops, sorry, I'm running into what's behind me. For dressing little characters. Okay, so fabric. Then you just need scissors, of course. You might want some paint if you're going to paint fabric clothes. I'll do at least one example of that. So craft paint or watercolor paint. I don't know if we'll use a needle, but it's always nice to have a couple needles on hand. And then the only other thing that you might need is, well, that you definitely need, this is the not optional thing, is glue. Aleene's clear tacky glue is what I've been using lately. Not for the actual spun cotton stuff, but for like gluing fabric onto things. I like that. But I will use some Elmer's school glue today. And I will definitely be using hot glue with my little trusty hot glue gun that's always by my side. So that's what we're gonna need. I'm just checking my list. Oh, you could use some coffee or tea if you want for like aging your clothes or your fabrics, but that's the supplies, not a whole lot, and we'll get going. Okay, I just want to add one thing to the supplies. I always forget one thing. Very small beads can come in handy. If you had tiny, tiny buttons, if you were such a lucky person to have tiny, tiny buttons, that's also fun. I don't have little pearl beads, but these are little stamens for silk flowers, and so I would use those. And you can paint them whatever color you want. And then these little gold, I don't remember what are these called? Seed bead? I don't remember. Oh, well, it says right here that they're called rocaille beads, whatever that is. Never heard of that. But they're handy for like little buttons of overalls or something like that. And again, you can always dab a little paint on there and make them a different color if that suits your purpose better. So I'm going to start with this little mouse. And I'm taking some tiny checked gingham. This is a really worn out old shirt. It's a vintage shirt, it's hand sewn. And so it's nice thin fabric. That is something to consider. Sometimes some of the newer fabric is a little thicker and stiffer, and so it doesn't lay quite as nicely as the vintage, but really you can make do with what you have. And of course, whenever I say for sure that I'm not going to do something, then that means for sure that I am going to do it. So I said I was not going to hand sew, but I really think it's so quick to just put in a running stitch that in some ways except that my needle because I abuse all of my craft supplies, I've used that needle, and it has glue in the eye of it. So anyway, it's very quick to put in a running stitch if you can get a needle threaded, and and it just makes this is going to be a little skirt, and I think we're going to put some little straps on it, and I'm going to show you kind of a cheat for how to do that. So a running stitch, and some of you, as usual, will be appalled at how imprecise I am, and sorry, and I haven't even tied my knot here. I'm really trying to make this a quick video, but I'm as many of you know, that's really not my natural style. So a running stitch is going to give us a little bit nicer gathers than what I could do if I was just hot gluing it all the way. Okay, so I'm almost here now, and hopefully I didn't lie. I don't think our running stitch has lost us too much time. Okay, so here we've got a little skirt, and I don't know how long it needs to be to wrap around, so I don't want to tie it off too short. Okay, so I need a tiny bit more than that. Just gonna pull it out, and I want a little bit longer than just meeting. I want it to be able to overlap comfortably so we can kind of hide the fact that this is not sewn. But yeah, obviously I'm not being very precise about this because we're gonna fudge it with hot glue here in a second. Okay, and I don't know if I mentioned that felt can come in really handy because obviously it's got those nice edges that never need to be hemmed and just look more polished. Okay, so I think I did just about right here for it to meet in the back, and kind of we're going to tuck it together. So I'm not going to glue that on quite yet because I want to do a little, you could just do a skirt like that, and you could put like a ribbon over the top of it and tie in the back, or you could fold over the same sort of fabric and make a little tie, if you know what I mean, like the sash band that goes around. You could do that and leave enough to make a bow, or you could just do enough to meet in the back. But what I wanted to show you is I like to make use of the hems, and I'm just going to cut right along this nice tiny little hem here, as smoothly as I can. I'm not a very fine cutter or seamstress person, so I don't always do the nicest job, but I'm going to use this to make a little strap here. And again, you could, when you glue it on, you could do it kind of roughly, like it's gathered, or you could just do it straight. So I'm going to make this look like a little pinafore or a romper type of thing. And that just gives it a little bit more interest than just the plain skirt. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can drag my glue gun over here. And I think that this is long enough for both sides, I hope, for the strap. I'm pretty sure it should be. So I'm going to cut it down the middle. Hopefully I've been in frame. I'm sure some of you are yelling at me to keep things in frame, and I'm just left the back of my table dark today, hoping that that would leave things in focus. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my glue gun over here and try not to glue all the other little mice that are sitting on my table. I think I'll just do her strap pretty plain. So I want to be sure that I have enough to reach as far as it needs to go. Okay, and I need to put my little, I don't want to put my glue gun and glue all my fabric to my table. Okay, so we're going to find out how well my whiskers are stuck in there because they're going to get mixed with the hot glue. Okay, yeah, that's going to work fine. Okay, so put my other strap on. And like I said, when you've worked really hard and long to make your little mouse look nice, this might be kind of painful for you to just glue hot glue onto her, but and in that case, if you have the time, you might just want to actually hand sew something and be a little nicer about it. But this is kind of the quickest way I know of to get a little outfit on a mouse and not just spend your whole day. But if you have your whole day, hand stitching clothes is very meditative and a nice task to do. But this is the cheat way. Okay, now we can just glue her little skirt at the front here. So I'm going to put a little bit there. Make sure that I have the center. Okay. You know what? I'm pulling that off. I want it a little higher. Okay. Let's bring it up higher so that her feet can poke out a little bit. Okay. And then I don't know that it really needs glued right there, so I'm probably just going to glue it at the back. Yeah, I think that's going to just about, I don't know which side I want. Sometimes there's a better side to cover with than the other, but they're both looking pretty equal to me today. Sorry about all the hot glue strings. I will take care of those in a minute. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, because I do this so quickly and in a very imprecise way, my skirt is not completely even if I actually pull it down. So this is where I cheat, and I'm just going to use a dab of hot glue right here, and I'm going to tuck it under and kind of pretend hem it in the back, okay? So I just let the hot glue kind of cover up my sins. If my hot glue hasn't run out here. Okay. Okay. Now, we could possibly do a little bow on the back. I don't think I'm gonna show you to do that because that'll just take extra time, and you all know how to make a little bow if you want to and glue it on the back there. So here's mouse number 1. Unfortunately, we're 10 minutes in, so I'm sure this video is going to go longer than what I initially hoped, but I may have to do a few of them more in hyperlapse for you. We'll see how this works out for what I end up showing you, but that's sweet, right? And if you don't have gingham or a little print that makes it that sweet, you can paint your fabric beforehand. If you're in for that sort of thing, just take your muslin and you could do like a polka dot print. You could start with a watercolor base, kind of a light color, and then go in with a different color of acrylic paint for a polka dot, or watercolor again, but the acrylic will probably give you a sharper dot. Or you could do stripes or something like that, or you could even paint little flowers. I think that it's okay, even if you think in your head like, oh, I don't think that's going to turn out. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you'll be surprised what turns out. So here we go. Miss Pink Gingham is done. Now I wanted to show you one that was plain, more plain. So I'm tempted to use this, which is actually the cuff of a shirt, and it's really beautiful and scalloped, and I think it would make a beautiful apron type of thing. But I also want to show you how something with just plain muslin turns out. So let's see what we do for mouse number 2. Now we're gonna do this little one, and I just can't resist using this little scalloped piece because I saw this little mouse is a little bit smaller, and so I thought I would make a little penny for her because kind of like the style from right around the turn of the century that's just kind of like gathered up around the top and has little armholes, and then it will have like a big lace collar. That is a very easy style to mimic without sewing. You can do it with a little bit longer piece of fabric and cut little holes through. This is not quite as long as it probably should be to do that, to cut the armholes through. It'll make it pretty short. So I'm going to actually fudge that and make it look like it's sewn by adding my lace collar at the top to cover over that. So this one I am not going to sew at all. I'm just going to do it with glue. So I'm going to start with a little dab here on her chest. And I'm going to try to make it look a little gathered. So I'm probably this one I'm going to glue in more places. Okay. And I work with a low temp glue gun, which I hadn't worked with a high temp one in a lot of years, and I did recently. And it's kind of a different beast, isn't it? For some of you who have the high temp gun, I'm sure it holds better over time because it's just liquid, and I'm not used to that. And so I have a little bit of play with my things. So I want to make sure I'm explaining what I'm doing, but that's how I can touch it and get right in there and not just scald my fingers off. And also I can more easily remove something if I get it in a place I don't want it in. High temp hot glue guns don't give you as much flexibility, but they definitely probably give you something that lasts longer. So I'm just going to bring it as close around the arm as I can so that it looks like it is it's more sewn than glued. I don't want you to see those raw edges of the fabric if I can kind of cover over them. And then this side I think I should save probably because see, it's got a little seam there because it was a cuff of a shirt. I'm going to save that to go over the others. So I'm going to go around to this side. So this is these projects are about like, if you only have a few supplies, just, a couple kinds of fabric, or then this is not something. But if you have like garments around that you've saved for different projects and little scraps of things, this is the time to get those out and look at them and think, how can I use these in creative ways? Because some things really jump out at you, like this just screamed like pinafore to me. And then I had this little, I think it's off of a fabric, this little piece, or off of a fabric, off of a curtain, sorry. Yes, it is fabric from a curtain. And so it's slightly sheer, but I love the color of it, this mellow mossy green, maybe not moss, I don't know, sage green? I don't know. Greens are, you tell me what kind of green that is, but I think I'm going to use it for a vest because I've been kind of, you know how you kind of like squirrel things away and you see it every once in a while and you're like, what, when am I going to use that? I think today might be the day that I use that. So I'm just going to glue this down and then glue this over the top. And this could be done with your craft glue too. If that's what you have, that will work. You just will have to be a little bit more patient and possibly hold it in a few places until it's, and also you could just sew, and sometimes it doesn't even take that much longer to sew things. But if you are afraid of sewing or just don't have the supplies to do that, this is why I'm demonstrating the all glue method. And so now we can just, oops, try not to ruin all my lace by smushing it on the hot glue gun. So I just need a little piece like that. I just kind of took it around and measured with my fingers how much I thought I would need. If your trim that you have, I showed you I have so many. This is what I ended up with. I'm not sure this is my favorite, but I chose it because it's kind of in the same shade of white as this pinafore, so I wouldn't have to, if you have something, where your fabrics don't match, then I usually just like to age one or the other with a little coffee to bring them to sort of a similar shade. I'm not sure if I will age this or not. I probably won't for this video because it'll just take extra time and I kind of like it looking how it is. I think I'm gonna maybe fold this trim under so that it's a little bit shorter. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. And it'll give a little bit more coverage up here where I don't actually have fabric where there should be fabric if it was actually a sewn garment. I hope I got that centered. I don't have a lot of wiggle room on that side, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm just letting, like I said, the hot glue do all of the work for me, and trying to cover that raw edge as well as I can. So see, I'm just bringing the lace up a little bit higher than that, and that gives you the illusion of more of a sewn garment. Okay, I hope my exposure isn't too high. Maybe I should turn it. It's a cloudy day, but the clouds are kind of sometimes heavier and sometimes lighter, so it's not working well for my camera exposure. It keeps needing a little bit different. Okay, I trimmed that kind of rough edge that was frayed a little bit, and then I'm just gonna, I folded the edge of the lace over and I'm gonna glue it down. Okay, so here is our youthful, I would say our mouse youth. She's a little one, and now she's little Miss, well, we have Miss Gingham, and now we have little Miss Penny. Reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Anne of Green Gables, because they wore pennies like this all the time, and I just thought I would love to wear a penny like that to school. So there's Miss Penny, and now let's see who mouse number 3 turns into. I think we'll do this one. Been wanting to use this fabric for a long time, so I just I have to, because it's just seems right for her. I'm going to try to show you not on camera, but I will just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this with watercolor and dry it, and then just do a stripe or a dot or something on it, just to show you what you can do if all you have is a plain fabric. But I'll show you the result of that, but not the actual process, because like I said, this video is all about time saving, and partly for just the viewer and partly for the actual process of what we're making. So again, I'm doing a running stitch in what I promised to be a no-sew video. You can do this just with glue, with hot glue, but I really think that the running stitch is so simple that I don't know why I wouldn't use it. So I went ahead and I measured well, I thought I did. We'll find out if I actually got the length of this fabric right beforehand. But is that called the selvage edge, the one that doesn't fray? Like I said, I'm not a seamstress, and so I don't know very many sewing terms. But it's the edge that is kind of like the one that somehow doesn't ever fray like the cut edge does. Okay, so I just did my running stitch. Then I'm going to see how much gathering I can leave by putting it around her neck. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the little armholes cut. Like I was talking about with the pinny, I'm going to just cut a tiny hole to put her arms through. And I would say I made this a tiny bit long, so we'll see if I can fudge it with gluing or how that's going to work. But that's about where I need it to be, so I'm going to tie off that end, and then we will, well, for whatever reason that didn't, it knotted before it went through, but either way I think it's not going to come loose. Okay, now we just take it and we find our rough center. I almost always mention in my videos that things don't need to be perfect. At least if you're me and you're making art, they don't need to be perfect. I am a recovering perfectionist. That really stifled my creativity in a lot of other areas of my life for a long time, and so I just give myself a lot of freedom when I'm creating and making things to not have them absolutely perfect, because you get a lot more done if you give yourself that freedom. Okay, so so it's usually kind of a guess, and you kind of hold your breath where you cut the little hole. So her little hand is right here, so I'm just gonna make a little snip and pull it through. And if your fabric is old like mine, you can probably just like tear it, just force it, and the fabric will give and open up to whatever you need. You probably don't want it gaping, because then you'll just see all of that rough edge there. So, and then again on this side, just going to make a little snip where the hand is. And this arm is much shorter, which wasn't that noticeable earlier, and now it is a little bit more noticeable, but that's okay. What is her arm doing under her dress? We don't know, but it's doing something. Okay, now we can go ahead and glue it down. And so for this simple little dress, we're just going to glue down at the collar. And since I cut it a little long, I might even glue it up a few places on her body to bring it up over her feet. And then I'm just going to add some trim for a collar, some lace that I have. If you don't have lace, if you have ribbon, actually that looks so nice that I'm tempted to just do some ribbon. So use whatever you have. You can also make a collar out of the actual fabric itself, just by kind of folding it over, like a tri-fold. which is how you would make, I hope that you kind of are following me, but that's how you would make like a tie for an apron or a band for a skirt or something. Okay, so I'm gonna put my dab of glue up there. Oh boy. There's where the low temp comes in handy, because I did not quite place it where I needed to, so I could just stick my finger on there and take it off. Okay, so it's glued down at least, and now we just have to, you just kind of have to glue where you think the dress looks nice and gathered, and I'm actually going to tuck it up here a little bit at the front again to pull it up over her feet. I'm just going to go ahead and put another dab up there, and then just, yeah. So this is sort of just like a muumuu, we used to call them, but I mean it's a dress without any waist. Is that a smock dress? I don't know. And because I know that on this side I have quite a bit of extra, I gave it an extra little tuck there. So that's what I mean about just, you kind of just have to see what your fabric is like and fudge it with the hot glue where you need to. And then here again, I think I'm going to put a little dab of glue under the arm and then just tack it up there so that you can see her little feet poking out. Now that's preference. If you don't care if the feet are poking out, then just leave it long. But I figure, well, I spent the time to make her feet, they might as well come out. Or if you want to add little, it'd look really cute with like little red or blue shoes. You could add that with, you could either paint right over the feet, or you could add a little bit of shape with some spun cotton. Okay. And on the back here, I think it's okay for length, but I can tuck it up later if I decide to. And then here again, I just like to fold that edge under. That's why I leave a little extra on one side so that I can make that side the side that looks like it's sewn. So I'll just fold it under and glue it in a few places here. And then all you have to do is decide what you want for your collar and glue that on, which I've shown you now with the pinny. So I think I'll just, I won't talk through that. I'll just show the process quickly, and I will have that part sped up a little bit to save us a minute or two, hopefully. Okay. So we'll see how it looks with whatever I choose for the collar. But isn't that a sweet fabric? Kind of looks a little bit almost, I mean the fabric isn't 70s, but I suppose the style is a little bit. I turned it into more of a tea dress with I just thought that ribbon looked so pretty with it that I wanted to use it. And besides that, it puts her a little bit more in step with the time period of the other pieces, which are a little more old-fashioned. So now she's got a little tea dress with the ribbon. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can use the different materials you have. And now I'll just do one little fellow in a vest and bow tie, I believe. But I've got to go do chores, and I will come back and finish that up for you. This is the mouse that I'm not quite sure about. I almost always do female, kind of feminine mice in dresses or skirts or aprons. This one I wanted to do for those of you who might want to have a more masculine character, or could be also a female mouse who likes to wear a vest and bow tie and look dapper, but just something not so femme. So I think the reason I saved this one to the end is because I wanted to do one with glue and like regular school glue or craft glue and not hot glue, and see how that turned out. So I've just been putting it off because I feel like it might be a disaster. And that's okay, but I just don't have a lot of time to film today, so I was kind of not wanting to have a failure right now. But anyway, and I did want to thank you, because been trying to rush so much in this video that I didn't really give myself time to chat maybe like I normally do, but thank you. My last video was one where I dressed little mice for like an hour and a half or almost, and talked about my health anxiety, and I had so many kind comments on that video. It's not like a tutorial, it's like a just sit with me or do something with me while I make things. Pip, please don't claw me, okay? So yeah, that's Pip talking to me, and he's probably going to start bonking the stand, so I may pause this so I can, deal with him. I know, buddy. I know. So I wanted to thank you, because I had so many comments from people who either kind of understood and commiserated and had similar things. I'm sorry, I'm going to deal with Pip. Or could just understand where I was coming from because of kind of similar or parallel issues that you have yourselves, and you had lots of nice suggestions for me, and just a lot of understanding and compassion and encouragement, so I really appreciated that. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. What I thought I would do is I'm going to take pieces of fabric. So I kind of did that in that anxiety video where I laid on pieces of fabric and glued them. And this one I'm not going to do I did layers and layers on that one. On this one I'm hoping to just do one layer and kind of cut the pieces of the vest and then glue them on with craft glue rather than the hot glue. So I don't know how this is going to look or if it's going to work at all, and we'll just find out here. So I think I will do, let's see, one around the back, and I don't know, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll cut an armhole, and maybe I'll just cut it into the actual shape it needs to be. Maybe that will work. And then I will glue it down with my craft glue. I'm just seeing how the fabric will lay, and I don't know if I will have to do 2 layers because this is kind of sheer. We'll see. This may all just get edited out and I'll have to try a different way, but we'll maybe, or it might work. Just find out. You could do this with felt, and I think it would work in a similar way. I just want kind of the impression of a vest, and we'll see. How many times have I said we'll see, I wonder? this is the garment that I would use the little beads on if I actually get it to look like a vest. We'll use beads to look like buttons. So this is not, I don't think, because of how I'm doing it, it's not gonna look, I don't know if I can stretch that fabric that far. It's not gonna look quite as polished as the dresses do because it's got raw edges, or I should say it has raw edges, not it's got, but it has raw edges. And also because I just don't have a lot of experience making little clothes that aren't dresses. I almost always make dresses because why not make it? No, I mean, I like dresses, or at least I don't wear them very often, but I like to think about wearing them, and I have many vintage dresses in my closet that people have given me because I did used to, before we had the sanctuary, I did used to dress up more often, and I don't know, now I never do because I'll have to change to do chores in the morning and change to do chores in the afternoon, and it just doesn't seem worth it. Plus I never leave my house. Haha. Well, I do, but I don't leave my home, I should say. I don't leave the place very much. Okay, I don't know. What I'm gonna do now is just because I think I'm just gonna have to fuss this a little bit, but the idea is that I'm going to glue it down to look like a vest and then see. I think it might work if I just get some tacky glue and shape the fabric a little bit more into a vest shape and then put on a few buttons and a bow tie. I think it's going to work out. I just need to trim it a little bit. And we're going to hope that the glue kind of seals the fabric and keeps it from fraying. here is our little bow tie and vest mouse, and I think he or she is looking pretty dapper. Maybe not quite as polished, but this mouse is not as polished as the ones that I made later with whiskers and with my smoother fiber. So he didn't have he didn't have a good chance of looking that polished to start, but I think the vest sort of worked. I think the buttons and the bow tie are doing the heavy lifting for it. I might try a few more and see if I can get one looking a little nicer, but I do think it works. I think it does the job. And hopefully some of these are ideas that you maybe wouldn't have thought of on your own, or maybe you just enjoyed seeing it, because I always think it's fun to watch someone else make. So here's the 4 that we did today, kind of a mouse family, kind of a little gingham romper, an apron pinafore, the vest and bow tie, and kind of, I'm calling it like a 50s style tea dress, I think, or party dress. So I think those are pretty simple, easy, hopefully accessible ways of dressing your mice. I am drying that plain muslin fabric that I showed you. I watercolored it and I am drying it right now. I'll make it into a little dress for a mouse, and I'll just add it as a still photo at the end, because I really wanted to just get this finished filming while I could do that while no one was in the house to make noise. So thanks for being with me today. I hope this was helpful for you, and I think I'll be back. Well, I have a couple ideas. I'm not gonna give a preview because I'm not sure what will come next, but I have some good ideas, I think, and pretty simple make-alongs coming up. So hopefully you will see and hear from me soon, and I will wish you happy making. Here's the little dress I made just from a plain muslin, so that if that's all you have, you can see that you can still kind of do a print. I just did watercolor, pink background, and then some darker stripes, and then I just cut a scalloped little piece and folded it over for the collar, and that's all just glued on. So I think that can be cute, and that can work too if you don't have some printed fabrics and laces and things like that. And then I'll show you below the work table, because I did the little stop motion intro this morning, or actually it was a few hours ago, and I realized that under my work table is like the perfect spot, because I can clear it off and set things up, and it's just kind of a blank backdrop. So I set up the little mouse picnic under here, which was really fun. If I had more time to play, I would get very elaborate, but this was a good little amount of play today. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Happy making.